All right, this is the first video in a series on scripture memorization, the basic Christianity series. We're going to learn some doctrines or teachings from the Bible, and then we're going to memorize a verse that supports them. So let's get started. This is the first lesson. Lesson 1, the doctrine. God created all things. God created all things. So anything that exists except for God himself, he created. All right? And let's go ahead, and what verse are we going to learn? We're going to learn, and we're going to memorize this one. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. Now, when we memorize these verses, we're going to memorize the reference first. That's the book, the chapter, and the verse. So Genesis is the book, the chapter is chapter 1 of Genesis, and the verse is verse 1 of chapter 1 in the book of Genesis. So we're going to learn that so we can remember it and go back to it and find it for people. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So this is what we're going to learn first. Genesis 1:1. Let's do it. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What's this? Say it on your own. What's the reference? Genesis 1:1. Say it on your own. Genesis 1:1. Now let's get this in our heads. In the beginning, because I'm going to make it disappear next. In the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning. So Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. Be ready. Here it is. Okay? What do we have here? Genesis 1:1. Then, in the beginning. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Go ahead and say it all together by yourself. God created the heaven and the earth. So Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. Now we're going to have to learn God created. God created. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created. Practice saying that on your own. We're going to go to the page where it's hidden, and then we will be able to see if you got it. What is it again? Start from the beginning. The reference. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now let's practice this. The heaven. The heaven. That's everything above us. The sky, the stars, all this. The heaven. Okay. The heaven. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The heaven. So you have 4 things now to remember. The reference, Genesis 1:1, part 1. In the beginning, part 2. God created, and then part 3. So this will be the 4th part. 1, 2, 3, 4. The heaven. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven. Let's go to the next slide here. There it is. We're almost done. We get the rest. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's everything else below. And the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Say it on your own. You can go and pause it, say it on your own, and we'll move to the next slide after that. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And here it is. Let's get this. And the earth. And the earth. And the earth. Say it out loud a few times. And the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There it is. They're all gone. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So what was that doctrine at the beginning? God created all things. God created all things. So now, let's go ahead and answer this question or this request. Give one verse that shows that God created all things. Say the reference and say the verse. I'll pause and do that, and then I'll say it afterwards. All right. Hopefully you were able to pull it off. It's Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. All right. Good job. Keep working at that one. Get it, and then we'll go on to more verses afterwards. Take care. Blessings.